My name is Kathy Ike. Welcome back. Today we're going to demo how to make a dried plant tincture. And the plant that we're going to do is fennel seeds. The instructions for making a dried plant tincture can be found in my new book, Make Your Way to Being an Herbalist. Chapter 3 is the chapter that talks about the making of dried and fresh plant tinctures, as well as infused oils, dried or fresh plant. So as I said, today we're going to do fennel seeds. Making a dried plant tincture is different from making a fresh plant tincture. I'm going to run you through the steps, but before we do that, I'm going to introduce you to some of the tools that you'll need. One thing you'll need is alcohol. The alcohol that I get is an organic cane alcohol. The company is Alchemical Solutions, and it has 95% alcohol in it. This high percentage alcohol is essential for making tinctures. Low in water, it's a very important, especially important fact in fresh plant tinctures. One of the things we also need in tincture making, because we've evaporated the water from the plant, is we need to add water in. Distilled water, spring water, or reverse osmosis water are all fine. There's a great debate as to which is best, but I say as long as it's not tap water, if it's one of those three, then you're doing a fine job. I'm going to use distilled water today. You'll need measuring utensils. I use measuring cups. Glass are best. You can also use stainless steel. I have a large one, but I also have this smaller one that does a smaller percentage of ounce. And you need your plant. I have fennel seeds. Typically, I would weigh my plant before I tincture it. In this case, I don't need to because I purchased my fennel seeds at the store. But a scale that's digital from a kitchen supply store or Target or anywhere really is perfectly fine. I used to have access to a really nice scale, which I don't anymore. But this $35 scale I got at Target works great. I usually also like to harvest my own fennel seeds, but last winter my fennel plant died. It was a pretty hard winter. So I went to the store and purchased some. If you grow fennel, you're more than welcome to harvest those seeds at the, usually in August is when you start to see them. If not, it is completely acceptable to go to your local natural food store and pick up some organic fennel seeds, which I have here. A canning funnel is also an essential tool in tincture making. In this case, I won't need one. Fennel seeds don't have a tendency to be difficult to get in the jar, but in the cases of more dense and fibrous plants, like yarrow or calendula, sometimes the mints, they like to fly out. So using a canning funnel makes it easy to get the plants in the jar. Now I've already put my fennel seeds in this jar, and what I'm going to need to do is figure out how much menstruum I'm going to use. The menstruum is the fluid we use to extract the chemical constituents from the plant. In this case, we're making a dried plant tincture. Typically, dried plant tinctures are done at a 1:5 ratio. What does that mean? Well, it looks like this. 1:5, 1 part plant by weight to 5 parts plant by volume. I'm sorry, 5 parts menstruum by volume. The menstruum being the alcohol and the water. So I have 1 ounce of fennel seeds, which means I'm going to need 5 ounces of menstruum. Now, the big question is, how much of those 5 ounces are going to need to be alcohol, and how many are going to need to be water? Now, that can be figured out with an easy math equation. And the ratio of how much alcohol to water we add to our dried plant tincture, it's different for every plant. A lot of plants might have 75% alcohol and need 25% water. In the case of fennel, we need 60% alcohol and 40% water. So of that 5 ounces, 60% of it is going to need to be alcohol. And how do I figure out how many ounces that is? It's really a simple math equation. I'm going to multiply 60%, so turning 60 into a decimal, by the total number of fluid ounces I need, which is 5. So 0.60 times 5 gives me 3.00. That means I need 3 ounces of alcohol, because 60% of the menstruum is alcohol, which also leaves me with 2 ounces of water. So I'm going to add that to my plant. Put on the lid and give it a shake. Oops. Now, you'll notice the fennel seeds kind of float to the top. It's going to take them a while to absorb the menstruum, and they'll eventually sink down to the bottom. In some cases, I might grind them. In this case, I didn't. You're going to let this tincture take about 6 to 8 weeks to sit before pressing it out. I usually let my tinctures go longer. Sometimes, if it's a really hard root, I might let it go for a year. Part of the reasoning for me behind it is that the menstruum penetrates the plant more deeply and gets to a more spiritual essence of the quality of the plant and the tincture. In this case, it's not necessary. If you need that tincture quicker and you want to let it go 6 to 8 weeks and then press, it's perfectly acceptable. You're going to want to let it sit in a cool, dry place away from heat and sun. And we're going to need to label it. These labels can be purchased at any office supply store or Walgreens. I think they're just the Avery label. The things that you need to put on your label, one is the plant you used, in this case, fennel. I've already made my label, so I'll just tell you what's on it. Also the date. Always put the date. It allows you to see when you want to press it out. 1 to 5. You remember this? The ratio of plant to menstruum. And I always put how many ounces of plant I actually put in this jar, so I know how many ounces of menstruum I put in as well. I know I used 1 ounce of dried fennel seeds. And that's the next thing you want to include, the part of the plant you used and if it was fresh or dried. I often put too where it was grown, if I harvested it, if I wildcrafted it, or where it was purchased. I put how much alcohol and water I used. In this case, I used 60% alcohol and 40% water. And I put the kind of alcohol I add in. So I'll put organic cane alcohol on the label. The label's on, and I've put some packaging tape over it to protect it from any fluid that might get on it, especially when I press it out. This is important information. And once you press out this tincture, you're going to want to store it in an amber brown bottle with a lid. And be sure to put all the information that's on this label on a label that goes on that bottle as well, so that you can keep track of how you made the tincture and when you made the tincture. So for more information on tincture making, please look into my book, Make Your Way to Being an Herbalist. And thank you for joining me.